All right, here we go. I got arguably one of the greatest bodybuilders, if not the greatest bodybuilder that ever existed, Jay Cutler, on my podcast, Uncle John, Serious and Silliness. What's up, Jay Cutler?
How we doing, man? How's everything on the East Coast?
Yeah, it's busy because there's a shit ton of shows. I don't have to tell you, there's a shit ton of shows in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Pennsylvania. So, I'm a small podcast. So how I met you is normally how I get my people to come on. So I go and then I stake out whoever's guest posing. And then I make a beeline for him like I got you. And, that's how I did. Like I got Charles Thomas Jr., Carlos Thomas Jr. Sorry. Yeah. I was thinking of Charles Griffin. And that's exactly what I do. But, if you take a look at my channel, it's not just bodybuilding. I do arm wrestling, powerlifting. I've interviewed people in adult entertainment. I've interviewed former mafia guys, 1% bikers. I mean, everything like for guys. I don't do any girly shit,
Mm-hmm.
So how do you feel when people say that you're the greatest bodybuilder that ever lived?
I think I actually quoted that in one of my documentaries.
Okay.
But that was just one of those things where, at the time I was kind of reminiscing on achievements and like what people consider, they have differences on what they consider the greatest bodybuilder. We go from the Schwarzenegger eras to Sergio Olivas to, Lee Haney's, Dorian Yates, Ronnie Coleman, myself, Phil Heath. I mean, if you go by straight records, I mean, obviously Haney and Ronnie Coleman are kind of tied with 8.
Right.
Phil and Arnold are tied with 7. And then, of course, Yates is 6 and I'm 4. And, we have a lot of great champions. But I think, we kind of remember like who is out there today more than we do reminiscing. Like as far as Arnold's kind of built this whole, higher level type presence than most anyone because of his political ties and, of course, the films. But for me, like I'm still pretty active in the sport of bodybuilding and building business and creating the awareness that, you can transition and use bodybuilding as somewhat of a stepping stone. So I guess that's what people consider the greatest. I mean, obviously I've placed well at these contests. I was second 6 times, one Olympia 4 times. I mean, the track record speaks for itself, but more importantly, I achieved more than I ever imagined coming from Massachusetts and migrating west and living more of a dream of making a career of working out than, looking at all the achievements. I mean, the Sandow trophies sit behind me, which is representation of the ultimate title. But, where I came from.
Not to cut you off, do you know what sits behind me? An autographed picture of you. I met you in 2016 at the Olympia, not that you remember, because you have met, I'm sure, well over 1 million people by this point.
Yeah.
But I didn't mean to cut you off, but go right ahead.
Yeah. So where I came from, I was a guy that just, number one, wanted to develop a better body at 18. And I was pursuing a career in criminal justice. I was going to college at the time, and I ended up winning the teen nationals just as I graduated with my associate's degree. And it opened my eyes to bigger things. I mean, I traveled to Gold's Gym Venice for the first time in 1993, and I witnessed greatness, not only inside that gym, but on the walls. And that's when I really decided I wanted to maybe have a career in this. But that career was not anything of expectations of, hey, I'm going to be able to pay my bills and build like an amazing lifestyle around it. It was just like, is this going to finance my hobby? And I'm still going to focus on working jobs and kind of, having this as kind of my side thing. And it turned into much, much more than that.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, here we are, how many, almost 30 years later, right?
Right.
It's crazy how much it's expanded. And, I'm still living what I call the dream every day.
Mm-hmm.
And I have many, many things that I do inside and outside fitness. I mean, I've grown to be obviously a man and do what I do, but I'm still super passionate about bodybuilding. And, still a fan of it. That's why I saw you in New York. I was just there being a fan and
Right.
supporting the event. I had no real business there other than, my partner, Steve Weinberger, who runs the show. We're partners on shows in Massachusetts. So I hold contests that carry the Jay Cutler name. I have supplements, I have clothing, I have belts and straps and all that. I mean, I do it all. I mean, I do everything in fitness, and I'm blessed.
Yeah. I've obviously the only actual business research I've done with you was right before I had you on here. So I've been loving bodybuilding since I'm 15 years old. But is it true that you first invested in real estate before you actually went into other businesses?
Yes. Growing up in a concrete background, my family does concrete still. My brother's on a concrete business back in Worcester, Massachusetts. So not crazy far from where you are. I did that from 11 to 17. I was kind of taken under the wing of a local successful land developer, taught me a lot about construction, building, excavating, land development, that kind of thing. And, I was able to use what little money I had to, actually start investing in property. And then, of course, when I moved out west, I bought a property within 6 months. And the reason I'm in Las Vegas today, I spent 2 years in California, and then I moved to Vegas, and I was actually a pretty heavy investor in the market after 9/11 tragedy, because there was a lot of uncertainty, and Vegas was really on fire prior to that. And then they had like a real setback on uncertainty with the markets. And I was able to come in, and I mean, at one year alone, I think I bought 7 homes.
That's fantastic.
And I built up the capital. So I migrated from residential to commercial.
That's even better.
And then, that put me at a different level. And
now, do you just sell? Do you just fix them up and sell them, or do you actually rent them out?
I was actually building at the time. So what was unique about the Vegas market is, I mean, I literally I didn't have, you could put 5% down on a property. And by the time you got done building that property, you could make quite a substantial amount because the prices were rising that quickly.
And you were literally the general contractor? You were literally the builder?
Well, I had some people that were actually helping me. Although I know a little bit about that, I just didn't carry the license.
I see.
I had a real estate person, that was helping me. So I was kind of working in cahoots with a builder here. And that allowed me to be able to really kind of take the capital that I honestly was made from professional bodybuilding and the real estate that I had in California and that I carried from Massachusetts. And I was able to just really start like building. My dad actually moved out part-time from Massachusetts, and he started investing also because the market was so hot. He actually moved to Arizona and did stuff there too.
Now, when you bought your properties, because I come from a family of contractors. We don't do concrete, but mostly electrical. But my one brother has done general contracting in New Jersey and in New York City. But in New Jersey, where he's done general contracting, he's responsible for a certain percentage of the actual work, right? So if you get your general contractor's license in New Jersey, I think it's like 20%, and then everything else you're like a broker. How does that work in Vegas?
Everyone uses subcontractors out here. Obviously, there's different guys to do, different jobs, or there's drywall, whether it's all your plumbing and everything else. So, you just have to have a general license and oversee the operation.
Okay, so it's different.
And then I got into pretty heavy rental properties. I was actually a landlord for some time, which I really wasn't a super fan of because me being who I was starting to get really popular. It was, anyone could look, and I tried to stay out of it as much as I could. I was married at the time, so my wife kind of handled a lot of the communication. We did, the vested all the tenants and whatever else, but I wasn't really a fan of doing that necessarily. I mean, obviously people use management roles now, but it was just a stepping stone, just like everything else, where I really wanted to get into more of the bigger things. And that's where, I was able to build enough capital to move into more land development and commercial. And and do the things that I wanted to do there. So that's really where that led. But at the same time, I was building a huge portfolio in professional bodybuilding with endorsements. And, I don't know how aware you are of the early 2000s and how lucrative bodybuilding was. But, at the time I had, 14 different endorsement deals, and
Wow.
like 2 or 3 being very, very substantial. I was endorsing my largest with Muscle Tech Supplements, who were the big players at the time.
I remember that, sure.
And I was booking guest appearances every weekend. I developed the mail order. I started jcutler.com in 2000, and I started doing online sales with T-shirts and posters. And then I was doing the DVD sales, which were absolutely amazing. I mean, I was selling a DVD for $40, and I mean, the sales were unlimited because it was worldwide. I was shipping all over the world. And then eventually, I launched Cutler Athletics and the Swole Monkey brand and with the clothing stuff. And then, of course, I got it out of the contracts and started owning all the branding. So everything I did, I pivoted to owning a piece or a portion. This day now, pretty much everything that I endorse or push, I have some sort of equity piece. And that's really what the end game is, and what it should be for anyone that's really building a big brand, right? And although I have partners on some of the things, I'm doing a ton of other stuff. It gives me great opportunity to live the lifestyle that I do. But I'm still, like, if you watch my social media, most of the stuff I promote is still the fitness side, because that's what my following is. I don't really talk as much about real estate or doing medical liens or whatever I do. It's just, I mean, there's all sorts of things. I had ammo business. I was, cutting and cleaning brass at a certain point. I sold that business, with machines and everything else. So I've done a million different things. I get things that come across my desk every day. I just launched, Jay's Pet Butters now. I mean, I have my baby sitting on my lap right now.
What's his name or her name?
That's Capone. So they're kind of famous. I have this pet butter that I just launched, and I'm looking at doing some different other areas in pet treats and everything else. So that's I'm always looking at doing other things and but staying in the core of the bodybuilding, obviously everyone knows me for the supplements. And
I have 2 pit bulls sleeping on my bed right now, so I'm definitely going to contact you about some of those treats. But I have 2 degrees up there, if you could see them. One of them is in psychology, and one of the traits of a hyper successful male is basically just trying new ideas, because the majority of hyper successful people realize that not everything is going to stick, and most things aren't going to stick, and they usually try it and try it and try it, and then one thing nails, boom. And that's usually how a very successful type A hyper successful man works. How many of those things that you've gone into that you would consider extremely successful, and other things you were like, you know what, maybe I shouldn't have touched that, or I gave it a good shot, but we're done with that?
Pretty much everything I've done has been really successful. I mean, there's a couple things. I did this, like, say this Beats by Jay. This was like a CD I did. Okay. This was music to working out. I wouldn't call this super successful. I just did it because someone said, hey, you should launch some music that I mean, here's me with the headphones. I don't know if you can see that or not.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't consider that to be super successful, but it was just a kind of a cool little ploy. I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen my hater blockers, the glasses, which was the sunglasses to kind of
I've never seen
block out. It was kind of like a gimmick thing I did. So, I mean, there's some funny things I do, but it's all about the effort you put in. And one thing about me is, I don't necessarily do things for monetary outcome only, if that makes sense. So I look at, just like when I was looking for endorsement deals to finance myself, which me saying it's not monetary, but I look at what I actually do on a daily and what I'm surrounded with to say, okay, is this something that, number one, it's passionate because I do it. It's just like when I launched my deal with Sheep with straps and belts, I actually used the products. I reached out to them. I said, hey, I would love to get some. They sent me free. Here we are 30 years later, still having a relationship. I launched a brand, partnered with them with the belts and the straps. As supplements, I had paid endorsement deals. I said, you know what, this is something that I use consistently. I'm going to launch my own. Okay. Clothing brands, it's the same thing. We all work out in certain things that we like. It's the Atomic shoes is the same thing. I was wearing those things when I was 18 years old. It was kind of the uniform. You had to wear those flat shoe sole type shoes to do your squats and your calf training. I'm today now, involved with that brand, and, these things all follow suit. So when I look at things, yes, I've had bad investments outside of the fitness thing that maybe I did, whether it's, even some of the real estate stuff I did. Obviously I went through the 2008 recession, where I made the most money ever in professional bodybuilding, but took a hit on some of the property stuff I was doing, especially the vacant land deals that I had.
So would it be safe to say that you're your own brand, and that's why the fitness stuff takes off? But you're also very you're a nice person. You're very personable when somebody meets you. You don't come off like this multi-millionaire, hyper successful person that's that's like a for lack of a better person, Donald Trump, like, comes off to you as like, my God.
Yeah, but being a nice guy, John, doesn't always guarantee you success, right?
Okay.
And sometimes people can take advantage, but listen, success for most is built on relationships. So when you meet someone, I just try to show the respect that obviously the aura that they spread off to me, right? So if someone's super, respectful, I'm just taught to be the same way. It's how I was raised. I didn't, listen, you hear everyone's story. I come from nothing. I'm just thankful to be in the position. Like, that's the truth with me. But at the same time, like, I was a hard worker and I knew I'd find my niche. It's just that some people are afraid to take that step. And I had to move from Massachusetts and away from my family and not take over the concrete, which I could have done. And I had to move out west to further my career. I fortunately had a great mentor in Joe Weider. He did take me under his wing. He's the one that bled me about the real estate stuff. Chris Aceto, who was my trainer, he pushed me to get involved to that point where I was able to make, a great amount of revenue. And then obviously that spilled over to, have success in other areas. And to this day, I'm still a hard worker. And yes, I treat people right. And I don't really need people for a lot of my projects. And that's really what makes it probably more exciting to me, is that, it's kind of the self-satisfaction, right? So that's the way, I just think you have to treat everyone right. If that's your question.
Well, that's your reputation, 100%. And anytime I go to an expo or the Olympia or wherever you are, with the exception of New York Pro, because you were just there as a spectator, there's a line a mile long. So it obviously speaks for itself. If you don't mind, I mean, I did want to get into the business end of you, but the bodybuilding part of it. When you moved out west, how confident, because I've heard things through the grapevine that you were 100% positive you were going to win the Olympia. That's how confident you were when you moved out west. Is that accurate?
No, not necessarily, because when I moved out west, I just finished my first Olympia. I was second to last in that contest.
Oh, that much I know, yeah. Okay.
And, I moved there to be closer to Muscle and Fitness and Flex magazines, which was our only real visible outlet for bodybuilding at the time, that gave us the publicity, because there was no social media. The internet was still, listen, I didn't launch jcutler.com till 2000. So that gives you an idea. Like, I didn't even have a website yet.
Yeah. So it was young. It was beginning stages at the time.
Yeah. So for us, like, we had to be close to where the photos are taken. So Joe Weider, who really anyone that knows bodybuilding, he was like, listen, I want to shoot you year round. I want you to be available. So I moved to Orange County, California, and I was uncertain. I just knew that at that point I started to get guest appearances, and I had deals, I had contracts, and I didn't do well at the Olympia, but I knew that California would probably be a better place because I knew waking up every day in the sun would be a huge plus.
Yeah.
Us East Coasters know what the winters are like.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah, like changing your just having to change your shoes when you get from your car to the gym because you're wearing work boots or whatever. Right. It makes it a little harder. So when I see these guys riding around on motorcycles with their tops down or driving in their cars, in California, I was lured to that. And that's really what it was like. I woke up, in 99 around Thanksgiving of 1999, and I had a smile on my face every day.
It'll do it. The weather helps a lot.
It helps a lot. And from then forward, like 6 months later, I won the Night of Champions for the first time, got my first pro win. I went to Olympia. I placed 8th. So I moved up basically halfway through the pack. And then basically, 2001, I came and I got second, and I was second continuous until I won. And that's kind of where the career took off of myself. But
all those times where you came in second, I'm sure the first time you came in second, it's like, wow, that's amazing. But all those times, because you came in second 6 times at the Olympia, right? Wow. Was there like a point where like, okay, this is ridiculous. They're never going to give it to me. Ronnie is like the poster boy. Or were you like, I'm just going to keep grinding?
No, because I was super successful at the time. So, I remember I was only 4 times second to Coleman. And then the other 2 were to Phil, Heath, and Dexter in my middle of my reign. So I did 4 in a row where I fell second to Ronnie. I mean, the greatest bodybuilder ever, right? I think.
In my opinion too, yeah.
Yeah. So for me, it was like, wow, I've kind of made this position, and I was still booked out guest posing. And back then, he and I would be like the features to do appearances together. So there was a lot of fans that kind of were drawn to me because I was the underdog. And for me, like second in the world is not so bad, right? Where other people would be like, it's frustrating, but at the same time, I was still wildly successful and very popular. I'm featured in the magazines more than anyone because I'm in California. And then, of course, that led to, social media happened late, but that was towards the end of my reign. And, but websites became more popular, forums. And, I was pretty much active on YouTube starting in 2008. Like I was a YouTuber before anyone was YouTubing.
That's great. That's fantastic. And you have a podcast now too, right?
I do, but I have Cutler TV was the channel that I used.
I remember that. Yeah, that's
right. Monkey Productions. And then I have Cutler Cast that I just launched in the last year. So it's more of
that's right. Cutler Cast. Okay. Right.
In Vegas. We had Nick Best on yesterday. I just launched the video. He's competed 10 times in the world's strongest man. We had Brian Shaw on there before. We've had a bunch of guests, Yarishna, Milos on from time to time. So Regan Grimes, we the main thing is having that outlet and that voice. And, I tell the stories and I tell the experience, just like we're doing in this kind of interview. And I know a lot of this stuff's been touched upon before, but depending on what mood I'm in or what kind of questions and where it pivots, it's not, there's stuff that's always missed,
But here's a question for you that I don't think a lot of people asked, that I've been interested in. Chris Aceto trained you and was a mentor for you for years, but then you went to Hani Ramrod. What made the change?
Recalling back, it's that was 2008. I lost to Dexter, and I think I linked up with Hani in 2009. And that, it was so long ago. But I just reached a point where what Chris and I were doing just wasn't really clicking. And I thought maybe this change would help. And Hani never approached me to say, hey, I want to train you. It's not like you hear these stories now where the trainers approach athletes and say, I can make you better. He reached out to me just as a friendly hello, because he knew that I was really down and out a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I just had lost the title and I had been on the top for so long and my body wasn't really responding like it had in the past. So we became kind of like it became a conversation, and I said, hey, you know, I may do this on my own, but can I bounce some ideas off? And he said, no problem. So we really didn't work heavily together. Other than shooting, we shot the FST videos together. Phil Heath came down, you know, we trained, and at the time Phil was the up and coming. I mean, you know, he in 09 when I came back to win it, you know, he was fifth. He was very he was in high publicity to possibly win it because he was third in 2008. So we spent a lot of time, and it just kind of transitioned into us working together, and brought a package that I hadn't brought in years, probably since 2001. People talk about that physique, and even though I won in 06 and beat Coleman, it probably wasn't my all-time best, where, you know, arguably 2009 was the best package for what I had at that point.
What was it that changed? Because I agree, 2009, that famous, you know, leg stomp,
quad stomp, and all that. Yeah, you know, I don't. What changed? Motivation. You know, losing, kind of like you don't know what you got till it's gone, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I definitely ate more food. I was more consistent with what I did, probably because I lost. You know, training. I mean, we were doing the FST, which was a little different. I kind of switched up the training a little bit. Obviously protocol, maybe just with, you know, little things with manipulation of water at the end. Definitely something that I hadn't maybe done before. And, you know, I came in with a better body.
Mm-hmm. The other question I wanted to ask you, I'm sure you've been asked this before. 2007, Victor Martinez came in second. Yep. And a lot of people, I would say the majority of people, thought he should have won. Mm-hmm. Why do you think the judges gave it to you that year?
You know, it was kind of because I had been, you know, the first champ in 2006. You know, his first year I won it. Feel that they kind of give the Mr. Olympia like the better look because you're the current. Mm-hmm. But I think, you know, listen, I was off, but Victor always. I felt like, you know, there was never a Victor Martinez where people like. It wasn't like my 09 or 2001. Like we've never seen Victor like 100%. Mm-hmm. And I think that, you know, he always was close, but I feel like he never reached his potential of what he probably could have been.
I agree, because of all the outside problems he was having. I agree. Yeah.
Like whatever's apparent, but the truth is like I judged the physique that day. And granted, right. I have a ton of width, and I was definitely better on the evening of that show. Was a 2-day event. And I just don't think he slammed the door enough in the judge's opinion. And once again, it's not my decision on whether I win or lose. And I know sometimes the fans get disappointed in the athlete, but we're not the ones making the decision. And listen, I'm thankful I was able to win it, but I'm very honest about, listen, it could have swung either way. We all see close calls in bodybuilding, and you know, I don't, you know, if Victor was maybe a tad sharper, maybe he could have pulled it off and beat me. But at the same time, I guess I had enough, you know,
right.
I just had enough.
Right. And what made you were already a legend in 2013. What made you make the comeback? Was it like the athlete in you? I got another good one in me, or was it like
I wanted to get up there healthy? You know, I tore the bicep in 11. I competed with a torn bicep. It was awkward. I kind of got that edge. I had people around me that wanted to see me get up there one more time. I had launched Cutler Nutrition in 2013 around that time, and I thought it would be great to kind of build up some momentum. And then I started this whole, you know, I remember I had been doing a bus tour. I bought a tour bus, and I started touring in 2012 into 13 for my products. So I was visiting all the GNCs, vitamin shops, military bases, gyms, and doing like meet and greets, because that's just what I did. And I wrapped this bus, and I had, you know, a driver, and, you know, we traveled the country. You know, we went from east to west and back to basically east all over a few months leading up. And then, of course, I stayed home and prepped for that 2013 Olympia. I shot the living large trainer, if you remember, for bodybuilding.com to showcase. That was me jumping in the pool.
I remember that, sure.
Cannonball. So there was a lot of build up to go into that contest. And we all know content is king. So in a sense, it gave me incentive to train for the contest. But at the same time, it allowed me to be able to get images and get video and kind of highlight things that were now apparent into the new age of what we needed to do for publicity, because the magazines were now fading, right?
Right.
And that's really a good reason. The fans were very receptive to it. I knew it would be my last. I do regret a little bit that I didn't wait until 14, because 14 was the 50th anniversary, and it would have been a better story.
That's right.
And it probably would have given me another year of preparation to be better and come back with more density, because I definitely lost some after having, the layoff in 2012 with the bicep surgery and then rushing to come back in 13. And remember, a lot of things happened in my life. I went through a divorce in 2011 and I was trying to kind of organize my life a little more. I was living on the strip versus the home I'm in now for some time. And I was training, out of there for like 2011. And then of course I settled back in for the 13 event, but there was just so much turmoil of trying to transition in life. And I was getting closer to 40 years old. And I just had turned 40 when I did that last 2013 contest. And I stepped away pretty much after that. I never officially announced a retirement, but I think people around me and most of the fans sense that, hey, I'm moving on to do bigger and better things. And here I am, in 2022 doing that.
Okay. There's a lot of controversies, or not controversies, a lot of, I don't know, rivalries. Let's say that. Your rivalry was Coleman, but you guys really liked each other. You guys respected each other tremendously. And in his documentary, when you finally won in 2006, you had expressed how difficult it was for you to enjoy that victory because you knew your rival/friend was hurting from coming in second from all those years. Can you elaborate on that a bit?
Yeah, I mean, your idols become your rivals, and everything in the world with the Olympia title, that was Ronnie Coleman's world, right? And he was going for record 9. I mean, can you imagine having 9 straight Olympia titles? I mean,
I don't know how he is the best ever, but I don't know. That'll be even better.
I never thought, I thought Phil Heath would win 10. That was what I thought. So I can't ever say that it will never happen again, because we may get that certain athlete that comes forward and wins it at 25 and is able to carry it till 35, but listen, I mean, I know what it felt like. What it's like to win and lose contests. And Ronnie Coleman was someone that I never imagined I'd actually be competitive with. I mean, he was someone I looked up to in the books, and to be his kind of nemesis a little bit, it was a cool vibe, like we said, the magazines built this kind of battle between us, but we were very friendly, still to this day. And I have a lot of respect for him. So when you respect someone so much, it's hard to take something from them if it's understood.
Would you go into your friendship with Phil, or would you rather not touch on that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Because at the beginning, he would express how much of a mentor you were to him. And then you guys, I don't know if it was, you guys kind of just split.
Yeah. And listen, I've been catching up to Phil lately. I mean, we're honestly not as close. I mean, everyone reaches a point in their life where they, we were very close because we were battling, and then I retired and I was off doing my thing, and, he was representing. And I always said from the beginning, he was always praising me for, who I was and what it gave him for inspiration. And at one point we actually sat and had a conversation, a private conversation. And I said, dude, you're your own man. And you need to take this title and run with it to where, maybe in your direction on how you want to do it. And we had that discussion, and, we slowly, I wasn't necessarily the mentor anymore. I drifted away, and he became like this almost unbeatable character. And then, of course, the Kai Green battles happened. And
That's right. That's right.
And, me being a fan, like, I'm always going to root for Phil Heath, but, I root for the other guys too, because I know what it's like to be Kai Green and placing second. And then, Sean Roden was right there. And Phil, I said all along he would probably break the record, but unfortunately that didn't happen. Fortunately for some of the new guys, they were able to take advantage of that, like a Sean Roden, who was able to win one. And, unfortunately he got sidelined with other things and wasn't able to actually defend it. But, lately Phil and I have kind of caught back up a little bit. There's never been any animosity, no matter what people think. I know there was some, I don't know, there was something he put out that, I was envious of him getting so many titles, which never was the truth. I mean, we're all wildly successful in our own rights, and I knew he would be great. Remember, I'm the one that called Peter McGuff at Flex Magazine after seeing him in Colorado in 2003 and said, I just found the next Mr. Olympia, and he was able to fulfill that. So I looked like almost like a genius at that point.
You're a prophet.
but I knew that, like, he had the mentality. Now, how he handled social media was differently than I would have, like, leading up and being, obviously he had to deal with, the Mr. Olympia title and people saying he should or shouldn't have won. And then Kai Green was like the underdog fan favorite. I mean, you being in New York, Kai Green's like the guy out there, right?
Yeah. For a long time he was.
So, I mean, I just, we just kind of lost our way a little bit of being as close, but listen, I still had the relationship with Hani and, him, and, we just talked about, we should all get together at some point. And, life gets busy, man.
It does. Yeah, it does.
And things pull us all over the place, but, sometimes it just, people's expectations are, it's always going to stay the same way, like the fans or people like yourself that are on the outside looking in, but like, doesn't mean that there's animosity or anything. I mean, I'm still a fan. I mean, he still looks unbelievable, and he's successful. He's traveling, and
you're 100% right. Cause I have friends from high school, from college, from my old neighborhood where I moved, that I, once in a while I get a text message from, or I text them back. You said, like, life happens, people get busy, shit happens, and, you lose touch. Well, I'm glad there's no animosity, because there was always those rumors floating around, Now, you were always, and still to this day, I actually had this conversation with Jason Owens and Derek Oslin. You were always a tremendous ambassador for the sport. You probably, but next to Arnold Schwarzenegger, probably the bodybuilder who did the most for the sport, as far as I'm concerned, as far as a lot of people are concerned. What do you make of all this big Ramy controversy, where his supplement company's dropping him and he's not showing up for Jim Madden's, guest posing, and he does nothing on social media? What do you make of all this?
Like I said, everyone carries the title a different way. And, listen, I hear he had personal reasons for not showing up at, Jim Mannion's event. I also heard he had personal reasons for not showing up at the Arnold event that he was scheduled for. I would do things differently, but Big Ramy's his own man. We don't know the facts. Like, we don't know, maybe he's the Dorian Yates type that just doesn't want to travel, and he wants to be representation in his own way. I mean, listen,
that's right.
Some people don't adapt to social media. It's very hard for people to say, oh, well, why is he doing this or that? But, you have to put yourself in a person's position. And, granted, I would do it differently, but I'm not Ramy. I'm not Mr. Olympia in 2022 or 21. So for me, like, it's easy to point fingers, but I have to be protective in a way for him. I definitely, like I said, I'd voice and say, hey, I would do this differently, but I'm me, and he's he, and I don't know, supplement companies come and go. I mean, you have to research and do your, like I mentioned with myself, like, I had great relationships, and I knew when I signed, it was long-term deals, because I knew that I would perform and do what I need to do. But if you're with a company, like, expectations, number one is to be on social media. You have to put out your content. So that alone, but you know what? I don't know if the company did their part either. They have to work to promote that person. It can't just be up to the athlete, and today's supplement companies, I think they expect people only to get sales for them. They expect them to be salespeople. And I don't think that's correct, because that's not what, I have Cutler Nutrition, and my expectation with people is, it's up to me to market them and help them build their brand alongside with them, help promote why they are successful on the supplement side, or, kind of put content together. So it kind of works hand in hand. And I just think it's got kind of a little faded road for a lot of these brands, and the expectations end up being a little more than what it should be.
Okay, I have two more questions, and they're both. I want to leave on a high note. The first question of the last two kind of goes back to the original, where you hear a lot of people saying that you're the best ever. Forget all the common people. When you hear the upcoming guys like a Nick Walker really looks up to you. If you ever looked at any of his interviews, how does that make you feel when you see the new guys that are just really winning and doing their thing in bodybuilding, the pros, the elite pros now that say, Cutler was the guy I looked up to. Cutler was the guy that the videos that motivated me. How does that make you feel? And are you more the modest type, or you kind of like, yeah, it's me?
I feel special. I feel special because at the end of the day, I'm a guy that loves to go to the gym. I was a dreamer. People probably thought I had a game plan and I had a structure, like a map, to do what I did. And the truth is I did not. I worked hard, and I had a vision, and I separated myself from the noise, and I overcame what they called subpar genetics to become, the greatest at what I did. But along the way, I developed a lot of great relationships, a lot of friends, a lot of great advice. And my mild manner gave me the opportunity to be in a position where the respect factor maybe is a little more than someone at like my level of platform, which, people question, like you sit there and say, when you say the greatest, like it kind of like, it shocks me a little bit, because I never sat there and said I'm the greatest in my head. But then I'm like, damn, I'm number one in the world, at professional bodybuilding, voted by the judges and whatever. Not everyone agreed, it's an opinion sport. But man, like Hunter and Nick, and, I have a story for all those guys. Hunter, I met when he was 17, I guest posed for his dad. He was in high school, came in with his friends. I was backstage. Nick Walker's parents used to bring him to come see me at Philly Expo. I remember they came, and the mom said, I really want my son to make a living out of this, and can you help him? And I told her the honest truth. I said, he has to perform on stage, and he found his way, and look at what he's doing now. And William Bonnick, I met before he was in Rolly Winkler. I met at the same time when I was overseas, and these guys were just starting out, and I never imagined these guys would be front runners. And I remember, even Rami, when he came through in 2013 was the last year, we competed at the Olympia together, his first Olympia. And I mean, he came out of the gate just crazy. And, so there's always a relationship you have with some of these guys that might mention my name. And it's just flattering to me, if that's the honest truth. And sometimes I say, why me? Because I don't think of anything special. I wake up every day, I'm hungry. I do my cardio. I feed my dogs, and I get down to business, and I still want to establish better relationships with my family. I want to reach out to friends that I maybe haven't been in touch with. You know, I drive down the street and I get a nail in my tire and I'm cursing, and it's the same thing as anyone else. You know, my gas prices are the same as your gas prices. Like I don't like paying as much for my gas. And, you know, I have to take a trip this weekend. I'm dreading getting on an airplane, but I can't wait to see the fans. I hate flying, and the weather's getting hot in Vegas. Like I can go on about like, hey, I'm in real life, so I'm just living like everybody else is.
Absolutely. You know? Well, listen, Jay, you're doing something right. And from an outsider looking in, I mean, even this podcast, you don't know me from a hole in the wall. I mean, that's why I ran over to you when you were talking to Guy Sistanino, because I'm like, oh, it's easily verifiable. Guy could be on my podcast. Guy was on my podcast and he could tell you that he was. And I just walked up to you respectfully and you were like, yeah, sure. No problem. I could do it for you. Believe me, being a nobody on this end, there are bodybuilders out there that were like, okay, I'll do it, but how much are you going to pay me? And I've heard that before, and I continue to hear that. And then there are people like yourself that are like, anytime, no problem, let's do it. So whatever you're doing, man, it's working out to be fantastic, because everybody I speak to never has a negative thing to say about you. And you know that bodybuilding is filled with gossip, and it's the God's honest truth. Nobody has anything to say about you. And I'm going to help out a friend right now. Actually, this t-shirt I'm wearing, Team Savage is a friend of mine, started a clothing line, Team Savage Fit Apparel at Instagram. I told him I was interviewing him, and I told him I was going to plug his shirts on here. So Jay, listen, man, I really appreciate you doing this. You have no idea how much this means to me. And hopefully, we could do it again. What's the future like for you? What do you got planned? What's coming up?
I'm back on the road. I said I wouldn't do this. When we were in the hiatus, I'm not even going to mention it because I hate to even use these words, but the last 2 years have been very awkward for a lot of people. And, I thought, hey, I'm going to transition to be an online guy. I'm going to be more social media and YouTube. And, we created the Cutler cast for that reason, and a
lot of people did. You're not the only one.
Yeah. So I thought, hey, I'm going to pivot to, I'm 48, am I going to be standing at expos till what age and doing meet and greets? And then I had scheduled that just like everything got canceled. And then like things started popping up because they're like, hey, we need to make this up. I got in front of the fans again and I said, damn, this is important, and I started booking weekend after weekend. I started making up events, and here I am, booked every single weekend, my busiest year of all time, including when I was winning, because now I'm a social media guy, kind of. I mean, I'm present on there and I'm pretty active, and I'm back to traveling. So, I started doing some online stuff. I had this challenge that I did, a 6-month challenge, and it ends on July 31st. And the winner is going to come out and shoot on my YouTube and going to be paid for to come out and eat and train with me. So
that's very cool.
We're finishing up with that. So I offered that starting in January. That's finishing. Very, very difficult, to be honest. It's a lot of work because I am traveling and people miss their check-ins and whatever else. So it's a little hard for communication. But I'm doing my charity camps. I'm bringing those back. Like I have scheduled on July 30th. I have the Make-A-Wish Foundation, Jay Cutler charity camps, which I'm starting again. So 100% of the proceeds go to Make-A-Wish Foundation of Southern Nevada. I only allow 8 registered people. That already is filled without even advertising it, just by a little YouTube shout out. So I'm excited to get that going again. I used to do this at Gold's Gym Venice when I was winning Olympia, when the first year I won. So I'm kind of excited to bring those back. And, obviously my supplement brands, I have contests. I have, the Jay Cutler Virginia Classic coming up on August 13th. And then I have the final one, October 29th in Massachusetts, the New England's. And in the meantime, I'm at other events. This weekend, I'm in Virginia Beach. The following weekend, I'm in, San Diego. So it just rolls.
Geez, no wonder you got divorced. Holy shit.
Oh, that's, to be honest, I mean, for people listening that are in the relationships, did take a toll on, on a long-term relationship, and it just never stops. You're always,
it's the truth.
But a lot of times, I'm engaged now, and I take my little dogs everywhere. You saw Capone. I have Daisy also. A lot of projects still, kind of seeing what the market's going to do now. I still have some real estate stuff that I'm doing pretty consistently, and I'm going to try to take advantage of what's coming up in the next 12 to 18 months, and and just look at having more fun in life. That's the main goal. Is no matter what, we can talk business and everything else is, I want to, I'm going to take a little trip to San Diego around the appearance that I'm doing there. And I'm trying to go to Greece at some point this summer.
It's amazing how things change. I'm 46. Amazing how things change when you get older, right?
Yeah. I mean, you kind of just want peace and I just, I still go to my dinners, and, I'm a little more lenient on my regimen now with the nutrition, but my best part of my day, John, is still working out.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think that'll ever change.
I didn't train yesterday. I had yesterday off because I forced myself to take a day off, because I find myself 7 days a week in weight training, which I never suggest.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to get back in the gym today. I have another Skype call with the Olympia today at around 1 o'clock. And then I have a couple meetings in the afternoon. So I'm going to hit the gym tonight, and I'm already thinking about my shoulder workout and what I'm going to do for shoulders and triceps. And that's the bodybuilder in me. I'm already going through the routine.
That'll never change.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to have fun, man, and just trying to spread the positivity. And, my schedule is all on my Jay Cutler Instagram, on my link tree. So if any of you guys want to see where I'm at, if I'm in your local area, make sure you follow me there, jcutler.com, all my Facebook pages, my Jay Cutler TV, Cutler Cast. And of course, I appreciate you having me on for this opportunity, man. I'm
going to actually put jcutler.com, Cutler Cast, and what was Jay Cutler TV?
Cutler TV as YouTube, yeah.
I'm going to make sure those are all in the description area so that people know where to reach you.
Make sure they follow my TikTok too at Jay Cutler, because TikTok.
I'll do that too.
I'm doing a ton of content now on TikTok, and a lot of instructional on there.
Yeah, I'll actually follow you too, because I have a TikTok, and I just put little pieces of my interviews on. So it's definitely not that anybody doesn't know where to fucking find you at this point, but I'll put it up there anyway.
No, I appreciate that so much, man.
Of course, man. No, thank you. You have no idea, man. I mean, listen, I'm not blowing smoke up your ass or anything, but you're more than a bodybuilder, man. You're a living legend, and I really appreciate you doing this, brother. Thank you so much for everything.
No, I appreciate it.
All right, man. We'll talk soon.
Okay, thanks.
Later.